Hello, and welcome to Recipes with Ben. In today's video, I'm making vegetarian sushi, which is perfect as the weather starts to get warm and you want something cold but also filling. So the first step to make good sushi is the rice, which you're going to need to wash beforehand. For demonstration purposes and not showing my sink, I have a jar full of water and a cup of rice with a mesh strainer and a pot. For the rice, it's important that you use short grain white rice. And adding that to the pot, finally adding the water and swirling the water around the rice to release any of the starches. And what you'll start to see is this milky color start to form in the water, and that's just rinsing out the starches. Next, we're on to draining out the water from the rice and using the strainer so we don't lose any rice in the process. I'll pour this from the pot into the mason jar and then dump out the water. And then I would like to say that you should repeat this at least 2 more times, or at least until the water starts turning clear after rinsing, because you're trying to remove as much starch as possible. Because the rice has absorbed some of the water, we only need equal parts of rice to water. So for this example, I have 1 cup of rice and then 1 cup of filtered water. With all that in the pot, turn the heat to medium and wait for it to start bubbling. Once you see the bubbling, reduce the heat immediately to low and cover with a lid. And allow for the rice to cook for 15 to 20 minutes. And then remove the pot from the heat and allow it to sit for 10 more minutes with the lid on. The rice should be cooked and very sticky at this point, which is perfect for what you need for sushi, as it needs to stick to the seaweed wrapper later in the video. If you want to make the rice and the sushi all on the same day, you're going to need the rice to cool. And the quickest way I've found is that by placing a silicone mat on top of a baking sheet, and then I spread the rice all over the silicone mat, and using a spoon to spread it evenly out. I then place it in the freezer for about 15 minutes or until it's completely cool to the touch. But you don't want it to freeze, as that can cause some issues. Then it's time for the filling. For the veggies, I like something with a good crunch. So for me, I like to have a mixture of carrots and cucumbers. And I'll begin by cutting off the tops and bottoms of both the cucumbers and the carrots and cutting them in half. We only need about a half a cucumber for this recipe, so the other half can be used for something else. Once cut in half, I like to cut the carrots and the cucumbers into long, thin rectangles so they can fit in the inside of the sushi later. And again, the shape will make it easier to roll up. Now it's time for our protein. So we're going to start with cracking 2 eggs into a bowl and then whisk, whisk, whisk until it looks pretty uniform and nicely beaten. Then on a heat source, we're going to basically make an omelet. So you set that to medium heat, and using something like an electric hot plate, place a non-stick skillet on top of it, and then add 1 tablespoon of butter to the pan. Allow the butter to melt and coat the complete bottom, swirling if you need to, and then pour the egg over top of the butter and move the pan around so the egg is completely spread evenly across the bottom. If you want to add some seasoning, I suggest some garlic, salt, and pepper. But at that point, once the eggs have started to cook on the bottom and start to curl up, you can fold the egg over itself, similar to like an omelet. Cook again for a few minutes until the bottom side starts to become crispy and slightly brown in places, and flip it over and cook it on the other side. At the end, it should look crispy like this, or if you like your eggs a little bit runnier, stop it a little bit before this point. Now it is time for assembly. For filling, we have veggies, avocado, the egg, and then we'll wrap that all in the seaweed wraps. Using a spatula, scoop the rice to cover almost all of the sushi wrap. You want to leave about 1 inch at one end so that there's space to close it at the other once you start rolling it. Then I like to spread it out with rice with the back half of a spoon and fill in any missing spaces with some more rice that's been set aside. Then in the center of the rice, I'll add the carrot strips, and in this case I'm using about 4 to 5 of them. Next is the cucumbers, where I'll place 3 slices on top of the carrots. And then the 4 slices of egg, which is about the same size as the cucumber. At this point you can season the rice with some sesame seeds, which can also go on before you add any of these toppings. After seasoning, it's time to add 2 slices of avocado, and begin to wrap from the rice side to the non-rice side that we left previously. Once it's all wrapped up, you could let this roll sit in your fridge for a few hours to bind better, and then place it in a sealed container, or you can enjoy it right now. If you're ready to enjoy now, place the sushi on a cutting board. You'll need a pretty sharp knife to help keep the structural integrity of the sushi once you start cutting it. So you want to start from about 1 inch from one end, and then start by scoring the seaweed, and pull up, and again begin to saw through it slowly to break through the rice. Once you get to the bottom, make sure you completely cut through the bottom layer of the seaweed, and continue cutting into about a half an inch slices. But as you go, what you may notice is there will be some starch buildup on the knife, and if that happens, just simply wash it off with hot water or a wet towel, and then continue slicing after it's been cleaned. Before you use the knife again, though, you want to dry it off completely, and then it's time to enjoy the cross section that we just made after cutting up all the sushi. I'll note that 1 cup of rice will make about 2 rolls, so if you want more sushi, just increase the rice quantity. If you're going to make extra for leftovers, I would suggest refrigerating it as a roll, and when you're ready to eat it, just cut it then into the desired shape. Now, if you want an easy dipping sauce to go with the sushi, I recommend a couple teaspoons of soy sauce, a teaspoon of chili oil, or more if you make it hotter, and a generous sprinkling of sesame seeds. Stirring that all together, and that's ready to go with your sushi. And there you have it, a vegetarian-friendly sushi recipe that you can make at home. The hardest part of this whole recipe is nailing the rice, but with a little practice, I'm positive you can hit it out of the park. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video.